Talking about past lives is one of those things that's perfect for this season, spooky season, or for any time of the year, really. But it is definitely one of those topics where I feel like folks come at it with a certain amount of certainty, like that there is a right way or an end all be all to past lives, or we like kind of attach to wanting to know exactly what our past lives were, if you believe in past lives. And I think that there's more to it than just these experiences and exact situations and environments that you might have found yourself in or who you were in a past life. I think there's more to it than that.
We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast.
People love to dive into their past lives, and it's actually one of the things that I am pretty curious about myself, and I love to talk about. I love to teach about, and I just love to experience. And it is something that I did not intentionally really create space for. I think I one of the things I do is past life. I can see past lives, and folks, I think want to know, like, how did that happen? So today we're going to talk about what past lives are, how I started reading past lives, what they look like for me. And also I'm going to speak to, how I think we can best use past life information. Plus, I'm going to tell you about different ways to examine your own past lives. Now, this is part 2 in a series about for spooky season for Halloween 2023, where we're talking about ancestors, past lives, and ghosts. So, in our last episode, part 1, we talked about ancestors. And I think that's pretty critical to the past life discussion because all of these experiences, energies that have come before this moment in time are impacting you today, each and every one of them. They're not separate experiences. So when we look at past lives, we can look at your actual different iterations of this lifetime. So different iterations of you up until this point. So current, past, and then of course past lives, different lives your energy or your soul has lived to date up to this point in time. Where should we begin? Okay, so why might knowing about your past life be helpful, and where might it not be helpful? So I think that we can dive into our past lives to understand recurring resistances we're experiencing in this present life. So if you find yourself like playing whack-a-mole in some area of life, and you just keep coming up against the same or similar resistances again and again and again, then that's a great area to explore past lives, because there could be the chance that this same kind of rhythm or experience is the thing that you brought into this lifetime. When I look at past lives, I like to look at the experience at end of life. So, how was your end of life experience? Because I think that that is the most recent energy you carry into this life. So, if an end of life experience was very sudden or like cut off very quickly, almost like he just like, hit end before the movie ended, or hit stop and took the tape out of a VCR. What about, what was a VCR reference coming from? They just take the tape out and the movie's not over yet, right? Like that's very abrupt. A sense of, lacking completion, lacking finality, not knowing the ending, and kind of an unresolved energy to it. If an energy was surrounded by love and care at the end of life, or if an energy was alone or had lived in such a way that other souls, other energies did not want to be there for that end of life experience. I think these are great things to explore because they help us understand where we came into this life, kind of where we were coming in. Think of it about like this. If you are a person who, I don't know, if you leave the house for work, you go into an office or something, or think about a time when maybe you left the house for work and maybe, the environment is however it is. But maybe before you got there, you got stuck in traffic. You couldn't find your other shoe, you couldn't find your car keys. There's all this frustration before you leave the house. That's the energy that you have with you, even though you stepped into a new environment. And the same happens, in my opinion, anyway. This is my experience, my opinion, when you leave an end of life and choose a new life and move into a new life. Your soul, your energy has just, experienced that experience and is now entering this new one. And we've brought that with us. So that's one thing that I like to look at, is kind of understanding, well, what energy were you in when you came here, made the choice to come to this life. And then, of course, as I said, those reoccurring patterns, the things you find yourself kind of coming up against time and time again in your life. And where might you have brought that with you as a learning lesson or something to grow from? Now, one of the things I want to say about past lives that I think it's really fun to get a past life reading. Like, I've had some, and I think it's always really fun just to hear how somebody perceives me in a past life. Now, the key word there is perceive. It's their perception of the story being told. So say, a person was like, I don't know. I don't even know a great example for this. But say in a past life, you lived in a country, and I've never even heard of the country. And perhaps it was a period in time that I'm not super knowledgeable in, right? Like, I am not going to just, most likely, I am not going to just know, like, oh, you were this person doing this thing in this country at this time, if I don't even know that it exists. Because intuition and psychic skills, they come together to utilize what what your logic brain can communicate to you, and that's how it's communicated. So one of the things in our Holistic Witchery program, in our intuition section, it's our program that we host a few times a year. It's where everybody starts here. The lesson is about understanding your connection to symbols, because you will receive information through imagery, through words, through feelings that your logic brain can interpret. So when we really attach onto, like, well, what exactly was I in a past life, I think we close off the message looking for the exact right visual or time period, something like that. So it could also be that you get past life readings and hear like several different things. Now, of course, if you're a believer in past lives, it's likely you believe that you may have several past lives, lots and lots of them. And also your energy or how you were, again, that theme might be the same, but people might interpret the actual life and what they see differently based on what they know, based on their frame of reference. So one of the things that I want to just really put out there as you journey into this past life discussion is, like, always let go of perfectionism. And you do have to know what different things mean to you, and trust. You have to have self-trust to really receive a past life message. And then if you're doing it for somebody else, you really have to have that self-trust in order to confidently deliver that message. And again, why would we want to do this? For that information, what might we not be seeing? Where might we be kind of in a holding pattern of our own creation because we're not seeing it? Where might you be experiencing a similar thing over and over again, but you're, again, not seeing it as similar? So an example of that would be if you, if you struggle with time management and you are, it's a problem, like it used to be a problem at work maybe, and you showed up late, or like you were maybe you were the one who always worked overtime where other people didn't, and like there's this time theme to your work life. So maybe you heal that and you get past it, and that's all on the straight and narrow. And maybe it's even like 15 years later, but now you're at resistance with another family member. Maybe it's actually coming up against like a kid or a partner or an aging parent, and there's like this time story again where you seem to be overdoing, or like nothing's ever on time, or they're always late, and that story is repeating itself. But you might not identify it as a repeating story because it looks so very different than that original one. But really, the thread is the same. It's just showing up in a new way in your life. So this is where we can start to use past lives to help us uncover the repeating patterns and stories that we might not be seeing in our own life, because they're coming back again and again and again to help us learn through them and grow. Because that's what our soul is here to do. Our soul is not here to take the easy road. The soul is here to grow and expand. And I think that this is why so many folks feel like life is just kind of meh, or it doesn't feel like really alive and wild and awake, or like you lack a sense of purpose. And it's often because we are doing things that don't push us out of our comfort zones, because we're so afraid of failure, of being embarrassed, of just putting ourselves out there. And so we stay in this nice, comfy area that we know, but we aren't growing, we aren't pushing. And that's where the resistance starts to pop up. When we aren't growing and expanding, we are restricted, we're constricted. And that is where, when you're constricted and you're restricted, there's resistance forms, and it's like an energy buildup that just wants to push out. And that's where we'll actually start to kind of energetically disrupt our lives and create problems, if we're not just letting it out, letting the energy grow and grow and grow. So working with past lives can certainly help us understand this information in a new way. So also looking at past lives can be a lot like doing a tarot reading or something like that, wherein you are getting the information and then maybe journaling on it, meditating on it, just letting it sit and receiving the message that comes with it. Now, there are some schools of thought about how I see this a lot in soul retrieval, where a person maybe in this present lifetime kind of left a piece of their soul or lost a piece of their soul along the way, or in a past life, and kind of bringing it in. I am not, so, that's not something that I've particularly embraced as a concept in my own practice here and my own spiritual development. I do actually feel like that your soul is, and your energy is leaving. It's like, how would I describe it? Maybe as like little bits of cloud puffs, I guess. is how I would see it. And your interactions are constantly leaving bits of you in the places where you have touched on this earth. And then you're constantly taking bits with you of the experiences and energies you're interacting with. And in that way, we're all having this big energetic exchange all the time. And I don't see it as leaving pieces of yourself places and having to call them back in necessarily. I feel more like we might unknowingly like block off places of our energy, places of that soul, and we can unlock and let that back out again through inner work, through self-exploration. So that's how I see it and how I work with it, as in case that question is coming to mind for you. So how are some ways for you to start to see and understand your past life or several past lives? Well, one of them is through using astrology. Astrology is a lovely tool for this. You can, now in astrology, there are certainly people who, like, that's what they do. They do past life astrology. But if you're not a past life astrologer, and I don't know one, so if you're going to ask for a reference, I don't know, but you can look at a couple places in your birth chart that might give you some clues as to where to start with this. And I'll use myself as an example as well. So one of the places to look for past life information in your birth chart would be your south node. So on your birth chart, you have a north node and a south node. Your south node, this is a little bit like your progression journey, maybe even like a karmic, what you have to learn in this lifetime, move away from and move toward. So your south node is what you're moving away from, and your north node is what you're moving toward. And we're often resistant to moving toward that north node because it's outside of our comfort zone. There are definitely lessons we have to learn on that journey. It's very growthy to move towards there, which is why we always teach the growth and inner work with the tools like astrology and witchery. You'll never see them separate here because it just doesn't work. It is a waste of your time. So your south node is a great place to get some ideas as to how you came into this world, which again can connect to how you were before you came into this world. So example for me, my south node is in Scorpio in my 5th house. So that is a lot of, and I have Pluto and Mars there, and some asteroids. So a lot happening. That's a lot of, for me, like combustion, chaos energy in this very creative, like outside the box house. And so coming into this life, there is that combustion sort of energy, like make chaos, don't settle, constantly like constant upheaval kind of energy. And so for most of my life and even into my adult life, there was this chaos, upheaval. How can I disrupt this? How can I make a problem out of it? How can I change it real quick? And like all fueled by passion, emotion, right? And it has taken me lots and lots of inner work to move away from that and toward my North Node, which is in Taurus, which is a more steady sort of energy, but not what I'm naturally inclined to, not an energy I'm naturally inclined to be in, because I'm naturally inclined to be in that South Node energy. So when you look at your birth chart and see what's happening with your South Node, where is it? Are there any planets with it, anything that you can learn about yourself and how you came into this lifetime through your South Node? And then that can give you some clues as to your past life. So I can assume in my past life, just from that information, that there were lessons in that. Like, what bridges was I constantly burning? Where was there a lot of chaos? Where did I thrive on chaos? Looking for themes of instability, maybe instability in my adulthood or childhood, and in understanding that as a past life thing that's come into this life. So another piece that you can look at in astrology is the asteroid Chiron. So this is the wounded healer. And the idea with Chiron is it's really what you can heal about others, but can't heal about yourself or struggle to heal about yourself. And this brings us back to what I said about this game of whack-a-mole. So these common themes, these reoccurring themes and patterns that show up in your life in different ways throughout your lifetime. And that's that wound that you're not healing, right? So look for yourself and see where your Chiron is. And again, just where it is, what's with it, all the information around Chiron. We do teach this in our astrology fundamentals class, or we teach you how to identify all these elements of a birth chart too, which is part of holistic witchery. So put that on your future to-do list. And so Chiron will help you to identify, though, these wounds that you might struggle to heal, which can again shine some light on past life themes that you've brought into this lifetime, because they are these reoccurring things that are showing up for you. And when we don't heal them in this lifetime, we carry them over into the next lifetime. All right. You can also use tarot to look at your past life simply by doing a tarot spread. I would, you can find tons of tarot spreads online about this. We'll include one. We'll put a link with the blog post for this episode for a past life tarot spread. But really just asking the questions, something like, what was my end of life experience like in my previous life? What lessons did I carry over into this lifetime? What strengths did I carry over into this lifetime? And maybe something like, how can I grow in this lifetime to not carry that lesson into the next one? So just asking simple questions. So what questions do you have about your past life, about what you might have brought into this life? Newsflash, you don't need a tarot spread. You can just make a list of questions and then pull cards to answer those questions. So you can use tarot for this as well. If you are a person who speaks with spirit or source, your higher power, your higher self, angels, ancestors, like whoever if you talk to an energy like that, or pray or dream or imagine, you can simply ask, what do I need to know about my past lives? What messages do I need to know? And open up the information in that way as well. So how do I see past lives? When I do readings for other people, in case you're curious as to how I do this, I typically will ask to connect with somebody's energy first, and I invite it to join me. And I actually hold my hands out to receive the energy. And I will sometimes just feel or imagine, visualize what it looks like to me and what the experience of that energy is. And then from there, ask to see the past lives. And the way I do it is it's like flipping through the pages of a book. So I see sort of a book like open up flat, and then I will in my head like flip the pages until it's like I pull to stop. And then from there, I ask to see what I need to see. And then I'll receive the visual or the message or the feeling. Sometimes it's a feeling in my body. I can ask questions. And then I will usually ask to see the end of life there. Sometimes I'll look at the life between lives, so that like what the person's energy was like between picking the next life. And then I'll just keep, if I want to see more, like again, sort of flip through the pages. And that's how it works for me. And I don't know how, it's not something, it's sort of something that developed over time. So I started as a tarot reader, and then that developed into my psychic skills, which developed into seeing past lives and occasional mediumship opportunities, and really just a progression of developing those senses. But I will say that the thing that really heightened everything was self-trust and not second guessing myself, not second guessing what I was receiving and seeing, and just letting it out and trusting in it. So for you with past lives, as we are in October and this liminal time that we're in, it is a time where you might want to ask those questions of your higher self, or explore with tarot, or look at your astrology and that South Node in Chiron, and just see, well, what, as we're in the fall season here, and we are in that emotional kind of dreamy energy to set the stage for the new year, because that's what we're doing right now. We're setting the stage. We're creating the space through gratitude, through receiving, through giving back, through harvesting, through dreaming, ideating, really just appreciating the magic energy of this season. And through this time, we can understand and ask these questions. What am I not seeing? What can I be more aware of as I step into the new year and set new intentions? So perfect time of the year to be doing this self-exploration through past lives. And this has a lot to do with your ancestors, as well, as I started by saying earlier in this podcast, because you're carrying all of this energy with you all the time. You're not just like, we see ourselves in the mirror and moving through the world, but it's not just you moving through the world. You have your ancestors, their experiences, how that impacted society, and all of those influences that is in your energy, and it's influencing your choices, your thoughts every single day. Your past present self, so you as a child, a teenager, earlier adult, those actions, that energy, those decisions, the thoughts, the choices, the impact of those, they are with you every single day. Past lives, that energy, those lessons to be learned, that is with you. So you are not just you walking through the world. All of this energy that has impacted who you are, what you're doing right now, the stories you tell yourself, the thoughts you think, it's in this like tote bag or this rolling cart, and you're just bringing it along with you every single day. So the more aware of all of that you can be, the easier it is to retell your stories, to heal and to grow in the way that you want to. And again, the fall season with this liminal time where it's said that the veil is thinner, and it's easier to receive these messages and communicate and hear and feel and tap into the magic energy of the season. It's an amazing time to not just receive from outside sources, but receive from yourself and lay this foundation for the new year before you set your intentions and your goals for the year to come. All right. So we have another part in this. We're going to talk about ghosts in the third part of this series. If you haven't checked out the witch gifts that we are giving this season for you, we'll have the link for that with this episode. Of course, you can always grab our Expedition to Soul class, which is a beautiful way to explore your inner self and where you are right now in terms of growth, intuition, being your own best friend. In a future self visualization is in there. It's amazing for this time of year. So check that out as well. And of course, our free digital Stay Magic magazine. Grab a copy of that. All right. So I will see you in the next episode with the third installment. But until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead.
If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If there's any topics you'd want to hear, anything you want us to dive deeper into, shoot us an email at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.